Hey team, Richard Tubb here with another episode of Tubb Talk, the podcast for managed service providers. Now, I'm in Dublin, Ireland this week for the big Kaseya Dattocon EMEA event, and so I thought I'd use the opportunity to speak to somebody from one of the UK's best established, most successful MSPs. Aabyss is a UK MSP that's built a reputation for providing leadership, management and IT support to successful companies in Liverpool and the northwest of England. And I'm joined today by somebody who is an old friend of the show, Robert Gibbons. And Robert is the new Chief Revenue Officer at Aabyss. Rob, good to have you back on Tubb Talk. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing really good. It's good to be back. I can't remember the last time I was on Tubb Talk.
Well,
a few years ago.
It was way back. I looked it up. It was way back in episode 92.
And where you at now?
We last spoke. 160 odd, I think it is, something like that. So we're getting up there. A lot of hours have gone by. We actually did the last interview that we did. It was talking about personal branding for MSPs.
Yes.
And that personal branding has clearly worked for you, my friend, because as we alluded to, you recently announced that you've been headhunted by the team at Aabyss to join them as Chief Revenue Officer. So how did that come about?
Just being me, just being on social.
Well, you've been humble as always,
yeah.
but you put yourself out there, and people in the industry really know you. Clients really know and like you as well. So
yeah, I think there's a number of factors on it. Is that yes, I am on the socials. We were talking yesterday with somebody that is not on the socials
at all,
absolutely avoids it. Whereas I do cover a number of platforms. I love sharing stuff, not only just for the IT community, because I am a really big believer in our community, but I also love sharing stuff that is for our clients, for other people, and just try and educate people how technology can help them, how they could be safe with technology, what technology can do for them. So, it's just part of who I am. I just want to help people.
Yeah, I think you're living and breathing that thing that we talk about, which is, don't be a tech guy per se. Of course, people need help with tech, but talk to them about the business benefits in this. And you do this, so you share a ton of content, and it's not aimed at other MSPs. It's not like the sort of stuff that I write for Tubblog. You actually write stuff that is genuinely useful for like local small businesses in the northwest of England.
Anybody and everybody.
Yeah.
And I know, I've worked in the tech industry kind of since I left school, really been in the MSP world for 20 years. But believe it or not, I am not a tech. You will not find me on a help desk resetting passwords or anything like that, which I think helps because I don't go into the technical jargon when I'm talking with clients, friends, people at networking. I can talk technology at a level that I understand it, and if I understand it, they're going to understand it too.
It's interesting. Just before we started this interview, I was speaking to Natalie Deeks from Uptime, and her role is essentially to be a evangelist and advocate for the client. And it occurred to me as I was walking up here for this interview, that's essentially what you do as well. So you're not going in and saying, hey, I'm the guy who's going to solve all your tech issues. You are almost on their side as the customer, as the client, and say, hey, look, I'm one of you, but I'm going to help sort of translate this into what you really need.
Yeah, and again, it's exactly that of, I'll look at it from the client side. In this industry, we've often talked about a book by Marcus Sheridan. They ask, you answer.
Yeah.
I am always constantly thinking of what question are they going to ask me? I'll have the answer. And that's the way that I see it, is if I'm going to talk to somebody, I already have in my mind what the next question is they're going to ask me.
Yeah.
And I'll answer it before they ask the question. So I'm always on the side of the client.
Yeah, I love that book. They ask, you answer. Yeah. Believe it or not, I've become friends with Mark, never had him on the podcast ever. I need to correct that.
You do.
Perhaps we could do it as a double header. Robert Gibbons and Marcus Sheridan talking about this stuff. But let's pause on Robert, the personal brand, for 1 minute. We'll come back to that. But tell us a little bit about the MSP that headhunted you, that you're working with, Aabyss. Who are they as a company? I've already mentioned, they serve SMBs in the northwest of England, the Liverpool area. But tell us about what your role and what the team looks like.
Okay, so Aabyss have been around for 25 years. Yes, they are based in Liverpool. I wouldn't really say they are a northwest business. They cover the nation.
Okay.
So we have clients down in London. We have a second office in Sheffield. So we span over that. 26 employees, very focused on security.
Yeah.
We talk about cyber essentials plus in this industry. Aabyss as a business are ISO 9000, ISO 14000, and ISO 27000. So when people are looking at how good are we, I think those badges really show, we look after our in-house security incredibly well. I was helping a client again. A client was going through an insurance process, cyber insurance and stuff like that, and they had a consultant. So I was on a Teams call with them, and the consultant said, "Look, I've looked around your website. I can see you've got ISO 27000. I can put all those questions aside," which was just a really great feeling of, yeah, that's a big tick in the box. And that's why the clients like working with Aabyss, because security is number one.
We've talked on this show numerous times to different MSPs about when you pitch yourself at a certain level, you actually the clients self-qualify. So you're not going to get somebody who might be speaking to you and Dave's fishing tackle and laptop repair store at the same time, being glib about that. But you're going to get a certain caliber of clients coming to you. Do you think that, that compliance piece that you've put, the effort that you've put into that level of quality also helps you self-qualify those clients, so only people who understand those sort of certifications and compliance come in to speak to you?
I do think so. I think when, if a prospect is looking at us and maybe they've got some budget constraints and they just want real basic IT support, when they see those badges, they already know that we're not, we're not the shop on the high street doing IT repairs.
Yeah, not the jobbing IT guy.
Yeah. So we've got those badges. It's cost us a fair amount to get those badges, which means we have to charge for our service at a certain level. I think if they just want IT support to get their business going again, almost kind of that break fix, that's not where we are. The size businesses that we're working with, we talk about thought leadership and stuff like that. It's a very integrated service that we have with them. Mm-hmm. So we are in board meetings. Mm-hmm. We are talking with the business owners. We really do work in partnership, not just as a supplier. Yeah. So they will come and talk to us about the next 6 months, the next year, their business growth, what they would like to look like in 6 months' time, 12 months' time, because they know that they're going to need to invest in technology. Mm-hmm. We want to be able to build that roadmap for them and say, this is the investment that's required to get to X, Y, or Z, and then we can plan and budget and help them go on that journey.
Which is part of the reason I wanted to bring you on the show. Obviously, you're a friend of the show. We've spoken before about your journey, the personal branding and everything. And this is not a knock on anybody who is running like an IT support company. It's how I started out in the business. However, I've said on this show again and again and again, like the future of the industry is not about fixing technology. It's about exactly what you said, embedding yourself at the board level and being able to have those same sort of conversations that the client would have with their solicitor, with their accountant, those type of things about the business direction. So obviously, I've been friends with you for a long time. I've seen your evolution in the business as well. So how does it feel to get to that stage now where you're having those conversations at board level rather than just about, well, what printer should I buy?
It's a very different world. But yeah, it's, it's massively different. And when you've got those companies that really want to invest in technology because they know the results that it's going to bring in, it's really fun to have those conversations and see you as the trusted advisor, not just a supplier. And it's just great. I really enjoy it. It is a different challenge to it. The technology world can change so fast, so you have really got to be up to date. Because if you talking about, let's say, Office 365, and then something happens and it's Microsoft 365, if you're not on the ball and you're talking in a boardroom and then something happens and the board say, well, we've got this advice from the consultant, but it's not correct, you can lose that relationship really quickly.
Yeah.
So, it's a different pressure, but one that I thrive in.
Yeah, trust easy to build, quickly lost, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Talking about investments, obviously we're at Dublin, at Dattocon. You and sometimes I think we see more of each other on the road than we do of our of our other halves, Karen and Claire.
You could say.
It's a big 3-day event. Why do you invest the money and the time out of the office in coming to events like Dattocon? How do you and the company Aabyss, how do you benefit from that investment?
Well, we've come over. There's 4 of us that have come over, and Aabyss, they put in a good number of people to all the different events that are run. So Kaseya have been running a couple of training events today. Not today, but yesterday. So Simon and Nathan did a whole day's training.
And Simon and Nathan on your team, what are their roles?
So Simon is a level 3 apprentice, and Nathan is a project technician.
So interesting. It shouldn't be surprising, but you're actually sending across apprentices as part of their apprenticeship to come to these events as well.
Yeah.
That's interesting to me.
Yeah, it's kind of getting them into the mode of Aabyss and who we are as a business.
Yeah.
We invest in the people in the business. I know I've not been at Aabyss that long, but even the short period of time that I've been there, I can see that, the people are number one. The employees are very, very important. They will do a lot of things to make sure that everybody is happy. A happy workforce is a great place to work.
Yeah.
And again, they've come over. We were talking to, or Nathan was talking to me earlier, and he said, "Oh, it was great. I went down to the pier stand, got to know the guys on pier, and I think if we have any issues further down the line, and he has to ring pier, he's now got a face of the person he's talking to, and pier have got a face of Nathan, who they're talking to.
Yeah.
So it's a great way to build up relationships." And you can't do that over the phone as much. And it's getting the guys. I know Nathan's on projects, but certainly Simon as an apprentice, we're a Kaseya partner, really seeing what Kaseya's about. Again, because they're on the tools when they're in the office working, and you've got the website side of things. But when you come to this event and the tools that Kaseya have got, it exposes Simon and Nathan to everything that's around.
Yeah. And as if by magic, if you heard the door click in the background, one of your colleagues has just walked in. Troy Midwood, how are you doing?
Richard Tubb, I'm very well, thank you. Very well indeed.
You're going to sit in and join us?
I feel like that's what I've done.
Yeah.
So maybe I should. I'm not sure what I can help with, though. I'm mindful I'm not mic'd up, so I don't know how audible I'll be.
Well, I'll tell you what, listeners, we will pause there for a second. I'm going to mic Troy up and see if we can get Troy to join us. So we started out with just one rock star of the MSP industry. You're about to get 2. Stand by. And we are back with the third member of the crew, Troy Midwood. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you, Richard. Very well indeed.
Well, we're here, all the 3 of us in Dublin at Dattocon. So Robert was just telling us a little bit about the investment, obviously, that you guys make in coming across here to these type of events. What do you get out of it, Troy?
I think I've been a long-term attendee of events like Dattocon and Dattocon itself for many years. And so for me, what I get is relationships, networking, keeping in touch with people who I don't see regularly, and also growth for the team. We made a conscious decision that we would broaden the attendees across our business. And so, in fact, the group of people I'm here with, there's 4 of us here this year. 3 of them have never been to Dattocon before. And it's an amazing experience to see, when you work in MSP, and you're doing the daily grind, working tickets and helping customers day in, day out. And, and someone comes back and says, I've been to a conference and by the way, there's a couple of free t-shirts and a water bottle. You don't really know what the conference experience is like. And then when you come along, it's a real eye-opener. There's loads going on. There's loads of clever tech. The guys have really enjoyed looking at things, meeting people, seeing what's coming next, seeing some of the tools that we use and some of the tools that we don't use, and coming up with ideas of how we could do things better. And that's great. That we want to make sure that we get the best out of our people, and we need to expose them to all that the industry's got to offer.
Yeah, and not a bad event. Robert was just telling us about, forgive me, who's the apprentice on the team?
Simon.
Simon, hey, you brought Simon along. I was like, I don't think any apprentice in history has ever gone, no, I'm not up for a trip for Ireland to learn about the business.
Well, absolutely, yeah, and it's something we did last year. Although the big difference that we've got with Simon is he doesn't like Guinness and he doesn't like Irish whiskey. So
wow,
maybe we'll bring someone who likes those things next year.
So, Robert, like Troy, you're a conference veteran. We alluded to it earlier. You and I see each other more than we see our wives sometimes at these events. But you often speak at these events. And in addition, you're the long-time group lead for the SBSC Northwest group, which is a peer group of MSPs that meet every month in Manchester. So what does the managed service provider community mean to you? You've already alluded to it a little bit, but what do you think it should mean to our listeners?
It's a great place to go if you're stuck and you need some advice. It doesn't really matter what level you're at. There's always somebody. There's a peer there that is ready to listen to you and give you some wise words back. I think in the very early days of SBSC, when I became a member, when I had my business Think4, I think it helped. Well, no, I don't think. I'm 100% confident it helped project the business faster in a 2-year period than I would have done without the communities.
Yeah.
And it's, you get to learn going to these communities, some of the new products that are coming through. The vendors know that coming to those communities, it's a great way for them to get their product out into the showcase. We get to have a look at it. You can talk to other people that have said, this backup solution, what do you think about it? Yeah, it's absolutely great, or it's absolutely rubbish. So, if you get a consensus that it's absolutely rubbish, you don't waste time finding out that it's also rubbish. You can kind of circumvent it and make shortcuts to some really valuable business decisions.
Yeah, accelerate your sort of the learning, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And enables you to get things done quicker. On that sort of subject of sort of learning about tech, Troy, I'm guessing as Chief Technology Officer, CTO at Aabyss, part of your role is researching the tech that Aabyss use. So can you give us an insight into the tool set or the tool sets, I should say, that Aabyss currently use? What tools do you use? Kaseya, obviously, are one of them.
Yeah, we've been a long-term partner with both Autotask and Datto, and with the acquisition of Datto by Kaseya, a big Kaseya partner. We use a lot of their products. We use Autotask for our PSA tool and Datto for RMM, and we use Datto for BCDR too. But we've got a number of other products, and events like this are a great opportunity to see the people involved in those, find out what's going on. And it's great from the relationship with Kaseya. In fact, the reason I was late is I was in a product council meeting for IT Glue, and I was hearing about some of the things they've got coming, but they were also asking us about our priorities. And it's great to have the ear of senior product people to help them with real life understanding of how the products that we take from them could be made to be better. And kind of also want to pick up a little bit and expand on that point that Rob made about, are we thinking about changing a tool? Is the one that's really good? Is the one that's less good? And one of the things I've really gained a lot in community is getting better use out of the products that we've already got. Yesterday, I was talking to someone who's in a much bigger MSP than we are, and he gave me what he didn't think was an important tip, but I thought is actually going to be really meaningful for us. A little change that I can make to the way our ticketing system works that's going to give us a really valuable business outcome. And that suggestion came from someone who's in a big MSP and they've used it. It might not have come from the vendor because it might be a use case they'd not imagined, but it's a problem we've got, and I've talked to someone who's solved it. And so that for me is a hugely valuable part of community.
Yeah, it's those little nuggets, those golden nuggets that come up in conversations at the coffee shops and the, dare I say, the pubs and the restaurants as well. On that topic, though, so you keep your ear to the ground, you look into all the latest tools and things that are about there. What do you think is the next category of tool that Aabyss are going to need to adopt?
Wow. I mean, I think one of the challenges we've got is because we've visited lots of conferences and we've been out in front for a while, we've been picking up and getting ahead and having a lot of tools, and I'm always mindful of tool fatigue. Yeah. Especially Troy's come back from a conference and we've got another tool that we need to deploy.
And the team grown. Wow.
And so actually right now we're in a period of trying to improve utilization of the tools that we've got. And so probably not looking to buy anything new right now, but get more out of the tools that we've got, make sure we're using them properly. And I suppose another thing to bear in mind is, you buy a product, it does X and Y, and you exploit those, and then over time they add some new features, and maybe you need to go and enable them or turn them on or work them into an integration. So that's going to be a focus for us to make sure that we're getting the most out of what we've got before we start putting more in.
Yeah, makes sense. Rob, we've talked about this before. To pick up on what Troy said there, we see a lot of vendors here at Dattocon, as well as Kasay. You've got the whole ecosystem. You mentioned Peer. We've talked about Pax8. There's lots of different companies exhibiting. But what Troy said about vendor fatigue with your community role at SBSE Northwest, we hear grumblings from MSPs all over about so-called vendor fatigue, don't we? That the challenge that MSPs have just got too many vendor partners, too many separate bills, too much admin to handle across too many vendors. If you were to start an MSP again tomorrow, where would you go with it? How would you handle that vendor fatigue piece?
I think you got to look at the stack of the products that you'd want in your MSP, and then have a look at some of the vendors that are out there that can supply multiple products. So, certainly not going out and buying individuals. And I know we're here at Kaseya. Kaseya have a fantastic range of products that covers everything.
I can't even tell you how many, what was it, like 47, or there's way more than that, isn't it?
Yeah, it's in the 40s.
Yeah.
I'm sure that if you could find a product they haven't got, Kaseya can sort that out.
Yeah.
So, as an MSP, technician-wise, on the desks, wanting to deliver the service to the clients, Kaseya would be number one. Licensing, for Microsoft licensing, that kind of stuff, I'd probably sit Pax8 as the other. So you've got Kaseya that could do the tools, you've got Pax8 with a marketplace. You could probably build an MSP with just those two.
Interesting, yeah. And Troy, we've talked about which tools are important to MSPs. You talked about making more of what you've already got. What tools do your clients most commonly ask Aabyss for help with? Is there specific platforms or specific tools that you look at the help desk and you see, we're always being asked about that?
I don't think clients really come to us saying we need help with these tools. Clients want us to help them become more efficient, and they want us to help reduce risk. And sometimes the clients don't know that they've got an inefficiency challenge, and it's our experience in working with lots of organisations and improving efficiency in our own business that means we can say, well, look, we've had a look at how some of your processes work, and we think we can help you improve those, do some digital transformation work so that your team can be more efficient, your team can be more accurate, your team can be more productive. And that might mean we use some technology. But I think the driver from clients is not, I want a tool. It's, I want a better business outcome. Yeah. And maybe I want your help in identifying where the better business outcome could be, because I know how to run my business, but you've got experience of helping lots of businesses.
So I'm going to interrupt on that one, because, the tool set that we're talking about is, we're kind of assuming that it's the service desk tools. But I think one of the tools that is getting there, and there's a handful of vendors that are out there at the moment, is a tool that will deliver an automated report of what we have done in the past month to the client. So it can alert the client of all the patches that we've done, the devices that they've got, are they coming up for warranty expiration, hard drives or SSDs in desktops, laptops, how full are they? Are they going to become full in the next 6 months that the device is going to stop working? So I think there's some reporting tools that we'll be looking at to show the client the value of what Aabyss delivers. Because, they pay us for a service, but they just see an invoice.
Yeah.
And we're getting to the stage where they're saying, well, what do we actually get for what we pay for?
What is it we pay you for? Because they don't see any paying.
So I think that's a tool, and I know we've seen a few things here this weekend. We've seen a few things over the past month or so, but that is a tool that we will be actively looking at. And, once we've got it up and running with a handful of clients, we'll deploy that across the client database.
It strikes me some of the conversation we are having is about things that, like, I sold my MSP 13 years ago, whatever, been doing it 20 odd years. But some of the conversations I was having way back then, we're still having now about moving away from the tools toward delivering value and sort of impressing upon clients the value. I mean, Troy, if I get my maths right, it was 1999, was it Aabyss?
It was.
Yeah, there we go, back there. So it's fair to say you are one of the managed service industry's absolute true veterans. You've been doing this for an awful long time now. What's the biggest change you've seen during that time? And let me ask a second part to that question. What was true back when you started that you think is still true for MSPs now?
I guess, well, I don't even think MSPs existed 25 years ago.
Yeah.
And so what's true now is Microsoft's a really important vendor to us. Right? Back then, we were deploying Microsoft servers with Microsoft Windows on PCs, and we're still using Microsoft tools. They're more ubiquitous than they were. All of our clients have Microsoft 365. So that, I guess, is the constant. It's changed enormously. The business model back then was being at the end of a phone so that when something broke, you could get in a van and drive there and fix it quickly. And that is so different than the business that we have now. It's unimaginable. And I suppose that's one of the, that sometimes I talk to people who are reasonably new entrants to the, and some of them not even that reasonably new entrants to the space. And they've only ever done managed services. And so the concept of being a break fix and that a complete misalignment of interests, when you break fix, you want your customer systems to break so that you can make some money going and fixing them, and they want them to never break. And that it seems perverse that was ever a business model. No one would dream of doing that now. Clients don't want their IT systems to break or go wrong, and we don't want them to break or go wrong. We've got a common interest in keeping them operational. But it wasn't like that back then at all. It was a very different world. That most of these MSP tools that we've got now didn't exist. Monthly billing didn't really exist.
RMM didn't exist.
No, RMM didn't exist. Literally, people were dropping in and out of vans, driving all over the place. Terrible for the environment.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for that. You absolutely put it into context there. We take it for granted, don't we? What managed services today, but it really has evolved. And Rob, let me put you on the spot then. You and I have spoken a number of times in podcast interviews like this and videos and stuff. You've served in senior roles at 3 different MSPs, if I'm counting correctly. What would you say is the most important lesson you've learned along that road?
Be on the side of the customer.
Mm-hmm.
If you're battling with a customer, it's one of those of you can win an argument, lose the customer.
Yeah.
But have empathy for the customer and really work with them and get to know them. Build up that relationship. Almost kind of say to the customer, in 12 months' time, what would success look like? And they'll tell you what, their success would, right? How are we going to get there? How are we going to do that journey? So that you're working together and really, and I've said it before, don't be a supplier, make it a partnership, have a relationship with them.
Love that. Troy, I'll put you on the spot here. You're never one to shy away from a difficult conversation about the state of the industry. You and I have chatted before, in private about how, vendors, the good, the bad, and the ugly, but how vendors can help MSPs more. Robert earlier on in the interview mentioned 2 of your vendor partners, obviously Kaseya, Datto, we're here today at Dattocon, Pax8 for the marketplace sort of thing. What's the number one thing you would ask a vendor like a Kaseya or like a Pax8 to do better to support MSPs like Aabyss?
I think just listen to our needs. I think be mindful of the fact that we and our teams are using these systems and tools day in, day out, and taking our feedback gives you the insight to be able to modify and build and enhance the products to ways that will suit us. And I think we're lucky that we're in a good position to be able to have those conversations with our suppliers, and they're keen to listen. I think the world is changing in managed services. We're getting to bigger and bigger players. There's more and more consolidation. Although saying that, MSPs just keep appearing. The market is growing. The size of the players are growing, and influence with vendors is key. I think when with the partners that haven't worked well with us, that's where they've had their set way their product's going to work, and they haven't listened to what MSPs want. They haven't made it nice and easy for MSPs, and that's, I think, a big differentiator. You see a divergence between IT software providers that specialise in the enterprise space and in the MSP space. Our needs are different. We do want everything to be monthly. We do want to own the billing relationship with the client. We do want great support, and we need that because our teams are dealing with lots of different technologies, and as much as we want them to all be experts in everything, we've got to have vendors that can back us up immediately when we need help.
Yeah, and we've talked about what attitudes need to change perhaps at the vendor side of things, and we've already mentioned some really good partners who I know you wouldn't be partners with, like the likes Kaseya, Datto, Pax8, if they didn't listen to your needs. But 25 years of doing this in the industry, since 1999, you speak to a lot of MSPs in the community. You see the big MSPs, small MSPs, the evolution of MSPs. What do you think needs to change in the attitude of modern MSPs, typical modern MSPs, to enable them to achieve similar longevity that Aabyss has had?
Well, I guess there's a lot to that, and I'm struggling to think which bit of it to dive into first. But I guess one of the challenges I think that some MSPs face is they don't recognise how just important they are to their clients, and they're sometimes racing to the bottom to win business at low price. And it's very difficult to deliver a good quality service at a low price. You can't afford the right tool set. You can't afford the right kind of training. You can't have enough people to be able to deliver a good service when you're at a low price point. And I think one of the things I've seen a lot in the States recently is a liability shift towards MSPs when things go wrong. And I think once we start seeing that in the UK, then that's going to have a big impact on the market, and MSPs are going to be more defensive. They're going to be cautious and careful about delivering services in a way that they're not comfortable, and they're going to be maintaining strong security where clients might in the past have been allowed to say, well, we'll skip that bit of the security. We'll skip that bit of the security. We're having more and more clients wanting to reach various certifications. Sometimes it's because of pressure in their supply chain. Sometimes it's because insurers are pressing them towards it. Sometimes it's because they've seen a customer of theirs or a competitor of theirs have a cyber event and it's been really painful, and they don't want to see that happen again. So I think we're going to see a hardening of MSPs of, look, we can't do it on a shoestring. We can't do it without proper security. We need to do the job well. And if we can't agree that we can do the job well, then the risks for us could be too great.
Yeah, and you would walk away at that point rather than shrug your shoulders and say, I'm sure it'll be okay.
I think you're right. That we used to have this debate about whether it was the right thing to do to, when a client wouldn't take your advice about security or backup, to send them a letter and just get them to sign it. And we never did that, never once, because it always seemed like a preposterous position to get into, to say, look, here's our advice, and yet we
used to call them dummy forms. It was like, sign this dummy to show that you're a dummy and you're ignoring our advice, which, as Robert said earlier, is like not a good attitude to have with clients.
Well, I suppose in the world of break fix, it was okay, because if they didn't take your advice, then and something went wrong, then you'd send a guy out in a van for multiple days and you'd send them a big bill at the end of it. But the liability has shifted. Even if there isn't a penalty for the MSP, there's still a liability of helping the client put it right, and then coping with the fact that the client says, well, you shouldn't have allowed this to happen to me. And I don't know how valuable that letter is that you got them to sign last time saying they weren't going to take your advice.
Probably not at all.
It's hard that, if a client is penny pinching, is not going to take our advice, not going to take our security, they are very much more at risk, okay? Which means then that our business is at risk.
Yeah.
And if something does happen to them, it's our reputation that's also going to be tarnished. Why should we take that risk for them not taking a service that we've recommended?
Because nobody's going to look at the story behind the headline.
No.
Are they? They're going to go, oh, well, I'm sure there was a good reason why that happened, or perhaps they gave them great advice. Or
Plus, it's also our team. You know, I mean, I was talking to one of our engineers who's been with us for several years, and he came from another MSP. And one of the things he really liked is we use Datto BCDR on all our customer servers. And he said of the firm he used to work at, you know, every few weeks, someone would be working through the night rebuilding a server. And we've never had to do that because we've said, if you've got a server, it runs important functions and workloads, it needs to be backed up properly, and this is what we need to do it. And this will cover us in the event of the kit failing, or there's an attack, all manner of things, even loss of access to the premises. We can run it in the cloud. That makes life easier for the team. We know we're not going to have to ask someone to work through the night getting a server up and running because we've got the ability to restore it because we've made the right choices around the technology. And the same for security. You know, a security incident is tough for the team to work with. So if we can put in place as many mitigate, look, we can't prevent 100% of bad things from happening, but the more we can do, the less likely our team are to find themselves clearing up.
Prevention is always better than cure. And it's putting the right tools in place. We can't guarantee that nothing's going to happen to that business, but we can raise the bar really, really high to make sure that business is safe.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. I'll pick up on something Troy, Robert was talking about earlier, that Aabyss helps clients with leadership, management, and obviously the tech pieces in there. Many of your fellow MSPs listening to this show today, we're going to be focused solely on the IT support side of things. And Robert and I discussed it earlier. We can understand, you know, lots of businesses like myself start as a techie geek. You like helping people and it grows from there. But Aabyss have sort of moved in a different direction, you know, leadership, management and tech. So why did you focus on that leadership and management? And what advice would you give to MSPs who are still perhaps stuck in that mindset of, oh yeah, we're the tech guys?
I think IT support is pretty commoditized, and the big differentiator for our clients is not necessarily the speed with which the phone is answered and the responsiveness of what was back in the day getting a guy out in a van. It was what impact can we have on clients' businesses that's really material to them? How can we help them make the right choices around technology? Which technology systems they use? Perhaps they are considering implementing an ERP or a new CRM system. Like, how do they go? You know, these are complex tools to procure, and oftentimes the client's never done it before. And if they're thinking about it, there's a number of choices, and lots of vendors will tell them amazing things, and it's difficult to filter through that some of the time. So helping a client with their business goals and helping them with how we can use technology in order to be able to deliver it is, I think, more valuable to clients, and it's interesting work for us to do too. You know, the reality is, every now and again, someone's going to have a problem with a computer, an application won't load, they send a job to the printer and it doesn't work. But that is the standard stuff that most people can do. Where we've got that bit of a niche is that piece of helping business owners and senior people in businesses to be able to understand how the technology decisions can have an impact on their business outcomes and hold their hand in making those decisions. And some of the clients that we work with internal IT teams to help them become more efficient. And we help with the more complex IT strategy and planning that their internal IT team maybe don't have the skills to do.
Rob, obviously we're here in Dublin for, Kaseya, Dattocon, EMEA, this crazy industry that we're in. It's not enough that we've got one big event happening in the world. So, the other sides of the planet at the moment, we've got PAX 8 Beyond going on in Denver, Colorado. You were there last year, weren't you?
Yes,
obviously
we were both there. Troy was there.
You were there as well, Troy. Of course you were, yeah. So, obviously, you made the decision this year to come along to Dattocon in Dublin. Can't be in two places at once. But will we see you two guys at PAX 8 Beyond EMEA in Berlin? Is that, you're going to go there as well?
Yeah, we'll both be there. Yeah, in this instance, it was tough making the call between those two. And I think the fact that we wanted to bring members of our team here, and look, let's be fair, it's great to go all the way to Colorado, but the jet lag is a killer. The travel time is a big one. Coming here to Ireland, it's a really short flight.
It's less than 2 hours.
Yeah, well,
the office to pub.
Yeah, absolutely.
The office to pub, I like that. Yeah.
So I think that was an easy choice to make, and also knowing that PAX 8 have got their EMEA event coming up in Berlin in October. Rob and I will absolutely both be there, and I hope we'll take some more members of the team to that one too.
Yeah. What was Beyond's like over in Denver?
It was really good. I think for an inaugural conference, PAX 8 did an amazing job. It was great to see that Rob still had it in him to run a great event, and from what I've seen, Rob Wright, not you, Rob, goodness me, but
the other famous Rob Wright.
So I mean, I've seen some photos of what's been going on there. It looks like an even bigger event than it was last year. So I'm really hoping that in 2025 the dates don't clash again, and we can go to both.
Yeah, well, interesting. I'm so glad both of you came on the show today. And, Rob, you and I have spoken a number of times. We've done interviews before, but Troy, I've wanted you on the show for a long time, my friend. So I'm glad that you came along there.
All you needed to do is get Rob to ask me.
Exactly. There we go. So I would love to chat to you. I've got so many other questions that I want to ask you, and I'm sure our listeners are going to give us feedback with other questions for you, because Aabyss, one of the best known MSPs in the UK. You're doing great things, and it's going to be clear to our listeners that the work you've put in over the last 25 years, Troy, paying dividends. You built an MSP that lots of other MSPs listening are going to want to have. And Rob, you've built that personal brand. So I can see, Troy, why you, Andrew, and the team absolutely sort of headhunted this guy to come in and join the business. But tonight, what have we got going on at Kaseya Dattocon? Is it Las Vegas night tonight?
MSP block party. I believe George is almost in Dublin. Yeah. We're looking forward to seeing him for his famous block party. Yeah, it should be a great night. I know the team are looking forward to it. They're really going to enjoy it, and I'm sure we three can share a beer, or rather 3 beers.
Well, 3 beers, not just 1 beer. So we are in Dublin after all. So listeners, if you're listening here and say, I was really enjoying that conversation, priorities must. We've got a big party to go to. So another reason to get involved in these conferences.
But there's a little bit more time for a bit more networking and a couple more informative sessions. So we'll make sure we get the full value out of it before we head to the pub.
Troy, where can listeners find you online? What's the platform that you like hanging out on the most?
Well, I do a little bit on LinkedIn, although to be fair, one of our amazing team does more of the work on my LinkedIn than anywhere else. So look me up on LinkedIn. With an unusual name like mine, I'm easy to find.
Well, we'll include that in the show notes. And Robert, you're all over the socials, man. I don't know where to find you for the best now. Which social platforms do you prefer to have conversations on nowadays?
Number one, LinkedIn.
LinkedIn.
Yeah, it's the place to be.
How's your TikTok going?
Not as good as yours.
That's an inside joke for listeners. The royal we. That's not Richard Tubb, started a TikTok channel. So the team have started one, but I'm staying well away from it because Tubb Talk, nobody wants to see that. But Robert was the one who was pestering for many years. You've got to get yourself on TikTok. And I'm like, no.
And there you are. You're on it.
I
was right.
I will stick to LinkedIn like you two guys. But Troy, Robert, this has been an absolute thrill. Thanks for taking time out of your day, because I know you've got plenty of other things that you could be doing, other people you've been meeting. So I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Hey folks, Richard here. Thanks for listening today. I know you've got a ton of options for who you listen to nowadays, so I really appreciate your support. Do you have any feedback on this episode? Ideas for future guests? Tweet me at Tubblog using the hashtag TubbTalk. I respond to every tweet and really appreciate your feedback.